What's going on, guys? This is Passion for Truth coming at you with another video. And today we're going to tackle all the things that you have to do to overcome the cognitive dissonance of a globe believer and become a flat earther. And the reason why I'm making this video is because it just seems that anytime there's a debate, whether it's on Facebook or whatever platform it's on, globe believers, I'm going to be nice and call you globe believers, always seem to come into the debate thinking that flat earthers are just dumb, uneducated, ignorant hillbillies. How do I know? I was once that person. I made fun of people who thought that the earth was flat. Even so much that I called them unfit for humanity. Now, I didn't ever get like hostile or anything like that, and I didn't go trolling, flat earth channels and flat earth groups on Facebook and antagonizing the mess out of them. I actually have a life, I never did that. But when I seen it popping up back in 2016, maybe as early as 2015 on Facebook, I laughed at it. And I had those thoughts. And I made fun of them, once or twice. Like I said, I called them unfit for humanity. And so the point is, you have to understand this, guys. We were once you. You do have to understand this. We laughed at flat earth. We thought it was the craziest, most ridiculous thing in the world. We thought, wow, these people are uneducated. They just don't know about physics, basic physics, right? So we've all been there. And so we know, here's the thing, when you start to research flat earth and go into it as deep as somebody like myself has and millions of other people out there, you know the globe better than globe believers do. Why? Because you set out to debunk it. Or actually, you set out to try to prove it. You tried to prove that the globe was real, and then you couldn't. And then you were left scratching your head like, what in the world? And then you dug further and did more research. And you had to go through all these steps, right? You had to overcome all these questions that everybody has when they first dive into this thing. For instance, you have to overcome, how the seasons work on the flat earth, how the sun works, how the moon works, how eclipses work. You have to overcome your time zones. You have to overcome ships over the horizon, right? That's still being used today as one of the best proofs that we live on the globe, and it's been debunked literally thousands of times now. It is not difficult. Actually, it is difficult because it is difficult to find this information now on Facebook because they censor it all. When you Google, and this is one thing I want you to take from this video. If you don't take anything from this video at all, take at least this. Back in 2015, 2016, when I first looked at flat earth, when I was first diving into it, I can find tons of information on the subject from both sides. If I started to watch a pro flat earth video on YouTube back in 2017, for instance, when I got deep into it, it was so easy to find information. YouTube would feed me another pro flat earth video like that, like clockwork, every time. I get done with one flat earth video and it would feed me another one, right? And it was good like that for about 2 years. I think in 2019 is when all that started to change. Just before the pandemic started to happen, they started censoring flat earth videos, flat earth content, to the point now when you try to find information on it, all you're going to find is like flat earth society stuff. So if you Google flat earth, you're going to be led to the flat earth society nonsense. It's a controlled opposition website that was created to give you some half-truths, but then also show you some absolutely ridiculous stuff, straw man arguments that no flat earther believes whatsoever. So in other words, it's there to deter you. so that you don't continue to look at it. You'll look at it for about a day and you'll be like, this stuff is literally retarded, and flat earthers are retarded. And you'll walk away from it thinking still that flat earth is the most dumbest thing in the world, right? So think about that for a minute. Why, if flat earth is so ridiculous, why do they have to censor it? Why is it now that when you try to find information on it, all you get is the debunking of flat earth videos, right? All you get are the Professor Dave videos and the Simon Dan videos that have been propped up on these platforms like YouTube. Notice how all those guys have like millions of subscribers. They literally have like 2 million subscribers. And they're dumb. They don't know their ass from a hole in the ground. Professor Dave pretends like he's a professor and admits that he's not a professor, doesn't even have a science degree, never done one scientific, experiment, never conducted a scientific experiment ever in his life. But you're going to him to find truth, right? Because it's the first thing that pops up on YouTube or Google. And that's the problem with most people. That's their form of research, is to literally Google it or put it in YouTube and watch the first thing that pops up and throw it in other flat earthers' face and say, hey, well, what about this? Like, we haven't done that ourselves, guys. That's the whole point of this video and why I'm making it, because I literally I'm in a debate right now on Facebook. And it's funny, I have friends that just like throw this stuff at me, and every time they do, I can predict their next move. I can predict what they're going to say next. Because I was there. I've been through this. I started this journey 5 years ago. Many of us started this journey in 2015 when it really started making waves. When Eric DeBay and Matthew Powerland and Mark Sargent kind of like started this whole journey for all of us, right? So you have to understand that we have been there. We have done that. We have asked all those questions. What are some other things that you got to get over? Like I said, ships over the horizon argument, seasons, how does the sun work? How does the moon work? Eclipses, and on and on and on. What are some other proofs that we live on a globe? How about photos of Earth from space? That's one of the first things that you think of. Photos of Earth from space, and they're all CGI images and admitted to be CGI images. Did you know that? Did you know there's a guy named Robert Simon who was actually hired to create these images? Then admits that none of them are actual photos, that they're Photoshopped because it has to be. And that you can go into these photos and you can look at, clouds being duplicated because they were Photoshopped in. Look at, if you don't believe me, go and just Google images of Earth from space and start there. That's the beginning of most people's journey to flat Earth, is the images. And when you find out that those are fake, you move on to the next thing, like, what else are they doing? What else are they lying about? And then you get into NASA, right? Because that leads you to, well, if the photos are fake, what about NASA? What about all these other space agencies? And you start diving into the history of NASA. You start diving into the spacewalks, and you find out that they always use fisheye lens in every single one of these videos. They never use a regular lens camera for a reason. They also never show you the fourth wall. Notice that in like if you're watching like from the International Space Station, they don't ever show you the stars. All they ever show you is the Earth, right there in view. It's always in view when they're doing their little fake spacewalks. They never show you the other side because that's the fourth wall. It gives it away. It gives the game away. Not to mention astronauts on wires and harnesses. We catch them all the time. We catch virtual reality mishaps. Guys that do augmented reality stuff. And people that actually are into all this technology are calling them out. They're finding these things because they're like augmented reality gurus that have gone in, they've watched these NASA videos and they've spotted everything. They spotted the glitches, the green screen glitches. Bubbles in space, guys. Just Google bubbles in space. How the heck do astronauts have bubbles coming out of their damn helmets when they're in space? See, and that's where the journey begins. And then you can go from there and you look into the moon landings. Well, if they're lying about all this, then did they ever go to the moon? And then you realize there's no way they went to the moon. The journey just starts there. And that's kind of where I like to lead everybody. I like to lead people to the NASA stuff, to the fraud, because it's just easier to wrap your mind around that life first, right? It's easier to wrap your mind around the fact that our government lies, and maybe they were able to able to fake all this in a Hollywood studio set, because that's what they did, and that's what they're continuing to do today. How did they fake their zero G stuff? Notice, here's another thing. Women astronauts wear all this hairspray in their hair to make their hair stick straight up. And it's wild when you really look into it and you see it with your own eyes. You can't unsee it, because if they're in zero G, they would have like a natural flow to their hair, like back and forth. But their hair's sticking straight up because they got so much damn hairspray in it to try to fake it. And we don't catch on to these things. Guys, there's just so much, man. That's just where your journey begins. And then you learn about parabolic flights and how they're faking this stuff. Right? How they can get about 20 to 30 seconds worth of video looking like they're actually in a zero gravity environment. But notice that all the videos that they do, the lengthier videos, are all edited every 20 seconds or so, because that's all they can get is 20 to 30 seconds worth of video where it looks like they're in zero G. How about like when, if you ever notice, you'll see when kids ask the astronauts to do flips and stuff. There's been times when they're trying to do flips and the wires that are holding them up, they either break or something happens to them and they slip and they fall in a zero G environment, right? How about when they're supposed to be upside down and in a zero gravity environment, there should be no downward, right? So you'll hear some of the astronauts say that, there is no such thing as up or down in space. But why is it when they're upside down, they're still trying to tilt their head upwards where up would actually be? You'll notice that, like when they're upside down, they're still trying to tilt their head upwards. Keep your eye out for this stuff, guys. All this stuff is fake. So once you find out that NASA's full of shit, then you're like, what else are they lying about? And you get into all this stuff. And one thing at a time. And then you get into satellites. Well, what about satellites? And you realize NASA's the #1 consumer of helium. Why are they buying up all this helium? Because they're putting all their satellites on balloons, people. And we have proven that they're all on balloons. Robert Bassano has a lot of great information on YouTube about satellites being on balloons. Okay? And you can try to speculate on what the actual ISS is. Now, there's a lot of theories on that. I'm not going to dive into all that, right? But just kind of think of it as in, like, think about it logically. If I were staring at a commercial airliner like a 747 up in the sky at cruising altitude of 35,000 feet, if I were to double that distance and make it 70,000 feet, do you think you would still see that airplane? Possibly. Doubt it. What if I quadrupled it? Okay? What if I quadrupled it? You definitely never see it. But what if I said that it was 250 miles up in the sky? Because cruising altitude's only 5 or 6 miles. So let's say we 25 times that. Do you still think that you would see that airliner? Hell to the no. You would not see it. So I know that you can go out and you can see the lights going across the sky, and that's what they say the satellite is. But you can sit there and you can track the ISS for 6 to 8 minutes going across the sky real slow. Well, in 6 to 8 minutes, that sucker should already be in California from the East Coast. But the East Coast isn't seeing it yet. But yet I can track it for 6 to 7 minutes from my own perspective for 6 to 8 minutes. It literally, they say that it takes the ISS 90 minutes to travel all the way around the Earth, to orbit all the way around the Earth, because it's traveling at 17,500 miles an hour. If you believe that, I've got some oceanfront property in Arizona to sell you, my friend. Start thinking about these things logically. Stop believing people. Just every time you hear somebody in a lab coat say something, you take it as the gospel. You're listening to man. Man is stupid. They make mistakes. They lie for profit, for gains. Why are we listening to these people? We have our own God-given senses that we can use. And don't give me the, I'm not a scientist. Everybody can be a scientist. Literally, by definition, anybody can be a scientist. It doesn't take, you don't have to have a diploma or a piece of paper to tell you that you're a scientist. Anybody can go out there and perform observable experiments and test them and repeat them. Use the scientific method. You don't have to have a piece of paper that you can wipe your ass with for all, intents. I can't stand it when people say that. You're not a scientist. What makes you so much smarter than all these scientists? Well, I'm here to tell you that not all scientists believe this stuff. There's plenty of people out there who are on the side of flat earth, and it's growing more and more every day. In 2017, when I really started first looking into this thing, it was hard to find other flat earthers. Now, every other person I walk out that's my age has heard about flat earth, and they're not turned off against it. My like 25 to 40 or something like that is like I forget what the stat is, but like 60% of people our age are questioning the world in which they live. They're questioning the globe. It's wild. You guys have no idea. If you're making fun of flat earthers, there's a lot of us out here, and it's growing by leaps and bounds. And we have a lot of very, very intelligent people on our side. We have military documents on our side. We have the Bible on our side. We have empirical science on our side. We're laughing at you more than you're laughing at us. So these are all the things that you have to go through in order to get to become a flat earther. This is your journey. I'm giving you your journey from being a crazy globe believer, somebody who believes in something that they have absolutely never researched and studied. They can't tell you the size of the earth. They can't tell you how far away the sun is, or how far away the moon is, or the circumference of the earth. They can't tell you how fast the earth spins on its axis. They can't tell you the axis degree. They can't tell you any of these things, but yet they still believe it, and they try to defend it like it's their religion. It's wild. But I was there. I have to remind myself that all the time. I was there. I hadn't researched flat earth. It's just kind of like one religion to another. I've said this before in other videos of mine. You cannot argue against somebody else's religion unless you know their religion first. In other words, you have to study their religion before you go into a debate with them, or you're going to be made look like a fool. And it doesn't matter if you're right or wrong. You haven't done any research, so they're going to make you look foolish regardless of whether who's right or wrong. Does that make sense? So think about that next time. Think about that next time you go and make fun of flat earthers. We've been there. We were you. We tried to go out there and improve the globe. We laughed at flat earth, thought it was the most ridiculous thing in the world. And something along the lines made us take a look. And some of us quickly discovered how much we did not know. Others, it took a little bit longer, and they fought it tooth and nail. They hated the idea of becoming a flat earther, but they were passion for the truth. It's like my channel, right? They were passionate to learn the truth, and so began their journey. So think about that next time. With that, this video is already 20 minutes. I'm going to cut it loose. You'll see me on the next video. Take care. God bless. Remember, take back control of your mind. There is truth inside. You'll discover that once you do start looking into these things, that you've been told a lie your whole life. And that's when things change in your life. That's when your journey begins. Peace.